Welcome to the Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent podcast. Insightful and witty commentary, probing interviews, and detours from the beaten path.
Welcome to Monday Musings-Danny SportsWrap. It's all brought to you by Dillon's Heating and Cooling. I had lunch with Jeff the other day, so I know that they are raring and willing to help you out with all your HVAC needs, and he's a great guy, has a great team there, and they always treat you like family. That's part of their slogan, and they live up to it. So Dillon's Heating and Cooling, the sponsor of Monday Musings, Danny SportsWrap, and we've got a whole bunch of stuff going on today. Of course, it was a big weekend. The NFL draft was held. The Kansas City Chiefs were active, making a couple of moves, drafting a couple of players. Actually, they drafted 6 players, not as many other teams did. Didn't have a pick until the second day. We'll hear from Andy Reid, and we'll check in on that. Check in on Sporting Kansas City. Didn't go well for them. Check in on the Royals. Still, overall, a great story, but a rough Sunday, to say the least, for the Kansas City Royals. And there's some really very interesting other notes as well. Kansas has themselves a new football coach. They had their spring game on Saturday. He got to watch his troops as the man Lance Leipold is on board for the Kansas Jayhawks. It was a big weekend at Kansas Speedway also, as they had 3 different races and a lot of excitement and fans returning to the track for the second time since they were allowing fans back into the stadium. And I mentioned a little bit of soccer earlier with Sporting Kansas City. Also, across the pond yesterday, a really, really bizarre situation at the Man U Liverpool game at Old Trafford, resulting in a postponement of the game. So lots of different things going on around here in the world of sports and all around the world as well. And we'll check them all out as we do each Monday right here on Monday Musings, Danny SportsWrap. It's brought to you by Dillon's Heating and Cooling, and we've got a jam-packed affair starting next.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
The bitter cold snap in February was just another intense reminder of how important it is to have a quality heating and cooling company on your side. That's why you need to know about my friends at Dillon's Heating and Cooling. Jeff Dillon and his top-quality staff provide honest, affordable, and reliable service all year long. Their number one priority is taking care of the customer and focus on being genuine, always following through and standing behind what they say and do. If you need HVAC or AC repair, it's important you get help from a team of professionals. Dillon's Heating and Cooling's team can walk you through a range of products, the advantages of heating and cooling systems, and ultimately help you find the best HVAC system for you. They're always glad to answer your questions and set up an appointment for an installation consultation. Whether you're looking to upgrade to a newer model of your current system or need one installed in a new home, give my friends at Dillon's Heating and Cooling a call today at 913-214-0529. That's 913-214-0529, or visit dillonsheatingandcooling.com to answer all of your questions. Dillon's Heating and Cooling. Their slogan is their goal, always treating you like family. We're here with Michael Barber, the CEO and founder of Microlight Corporation of America, the world leaders in laser therapy. And Michael, tell us a little bit about your product.
Our device is using a particular wavelength and power to reduce pain and swelling. My background is surgical lasers, but I've been involved with this particular device now for about the last 20 years, actually.
And I know that it works because I've had it used on me as well. And tell us about the relationship you have with your company and Canaway.
It's what I call a strategic business relationship, in that Canaway, the leader in the field of the cannabinoid systems and CBD oil, but our device used in conjunction with Canaway CBD oil gives a better pain relief outcome for the patient.
And if you want to get that pain relief outcome like I did, you can reach their local representative, Sherry McCants, at 515-208-6312. That's 515-208-6312.
Right now, it's more important than ever to support local businesses, and 23rd Street Brewery in Lawrence is open and ready to take care of you. Make 23rd Street Brewery part of your KU game day experience, whether you watch the game there or grab curbside pickup for your tailgates or watch parties.
But not just game days. 23rd Street Brewery is great any day of the week, and when the weather's nice, you can take advantage of their heaters on the patio. 23rd Street Brewery is open daily from 11:30 to 9 for dine-in, carry-out, curbside pickup, and can even help with your catering needs.
So support local and visit a Lawrence favorite, 23rd Street Brewery.
I'm here with Tim Emerson, the owner of Emerson & Company. And Tim, give us an idea of the range of services that you provide from Emerson & Company.
At Emerson & Company, we do credit card processing, payroll services. We do bookkeeping, merchant accounts like point-of-sale systems.
What would you say differentiates you from other companies in the field, and what makes you special?
I think what makes us unique is that we're a small local business making regional decisions on companies. We create a profile for the business and then put it out to our different vendors in a very competitive environment and tailor those needs to the specific business, which usually ends up in a great fit or great result for the company.
And, of course, the idea is to save money, right?
Save money, and actually sometimes I'm surprised where actually a solution that may cost a little bit more ultimately does save money, but we're not conditioned to think like that sometimes.
Emerson & Company. Check them out at emerson-co.com or call them at 816-360-9092. If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at Danny@DannyKlinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you. Welcome back, and with all the things that we were talking about in the opening, there certainly is not going to be anything that is going to even come close to rising to the level of fan interest of a weekend when the Chiefs draft players, and that they did. Of course, they didn't have a first-round draft choice, so they sat out Thursday and then moved into Friday for 2 picks in the second round, which is obviously going to make most of the news because the Chiefs didn't have a third-round pick either, and we'll hear from Andy Reid about his top 2 picks here in a little bit. And certainly there's going to be a lot of happy people around Chiefs Kingdom. Chiefs addressed some needs. They did some things that I liked. They did some things that I didn't not like, but think was maybe a little bit of overkill. I'll get to that in a minute. Let's just run down the picks for you, how they went. Round 2, 58th overall is Nick Bolton from Missouri, guy who is a tackle machine, a little bit undersized as a linebacker, but linebacker was an absolute need for the Chiefs. They draft a local guy. In general, I'm not the biggest fan of local players being brought into a team, more so on the free agent side when you're just taking a flyer because eventually you're probably going to have to cut that guy, and then the fans of the local player and local school will have seen probably a little bit more than the Chiefs actually did in the player in the preseason, or if they go up to St. Joe, and so they'll in the end be disappointed that their player didn't make the team. But this is the top draft choice of the team. Nick Bolton's probably going to be a good player. Still a little bit more pressure on a player like that. He'll bring aggressiveness, leadership. The second-round picks for the Chiefs are both team captains. We'll get to the other one here in a second, which is the gist of my major points here as far as the draft is concerned. And Bolton is a very good player, and he's been great when healthy, a little bit of injury concern during his senior year. Obviously has shown great leadership in his time at Missouri, so Mizzou fans will have somebody to root for and somebody who can perk up an area that the Chiefs really could use some help. Well, the Chiefs certainly could have used some help in the offensive line in the Super Bowl, and boy, did they react to it. And on Friday, when the Chiefs with the 63rd overall pick picked center Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma, basically I tweeted out that the Chiefs now have made 5 to 6 different moves. They actually did draft another offensive lineman later in the draft, and so they have completely reacted strongly to what happened in the Super Bowl, and reacting to it is a good thing. But I think there's been a bit of an overreaction to it. The Chiefs were decimated by injury for that game. And now they've gone out and spent a whole bunch of money on Joe Thuney. They're going to spend a whole bunch of money on Orlando Brown Jr. They traded draft capital to get Orlando Brown Jr. They have other players returning. I think that they sort of overdid it a little bit. But one thing that's great about the Chiefs right now and the Chiefs fans, I definitely think they overdid it. I tweeted out that the Chiefs have reacted to the Super Bowl game like a man or a husband who has been dumped by his girlfriend and or wife, and they have gone wild as far as the offensive line is concerned, and they're going to have great competition there. They're probably going to end up maybe cutting or having on the bench a very accomplished player, and meanwhile, they really didn't get a high-drafted wide receiver, which they could have with this particular pick. They didn't really get a edge rusher with a high pick. They did do so later on with the Florida State defensive end that we'll talk about briefly. So I think this is a little bit of overkill as far as the Chiefs were concerned, but I guess that's better than underkill, if that's a phrase. But let's get Andy Reid's thoughts on these two particular picks, because after the second round was the only time we heard from Andy Reid. The other guys were the ones who spoke after other picks, scouts and area evaluators and things like that. So here's Andy Reid on his two top picks.
Listen, with the first pick, we took Nick Bolton, a local college player from University of Missouri. And what you're going to get with him is just a all-out, aggressive, smart football player. Not the biggest guy, but very, very tough, great tackler, great ball skills, and in the pass game part of it, and tremendous leadership. So we look forward to bringing him on board. And then Creed Humphrey from Oklahoma, big kid that, again, is extremely smart. The thing you'll notice with him is he can snap with either hand, natural left-handed snapper, but he could do either one. It doesn't really matter. I mean, he's best probably with his left hand. That's his natural hand. But he's taught himself how to do it also right-handed. Great feet and work ethic, and then a big man. And so Creed will be a nice addition to that offensive line. My hat goes off to Brett Veach and his crew of scouts and really the whole personnel department there, of just batting down and taking the best players at the spot once we got to this position, taking the best players that were there. It takes discipline to do that. And Brett did that, and I think we came out with two good football players. Obviously, time tells, but they sure were good college football players. We think they'll transfer right into here in Kansas City. Both good citizens too, good kids, and they'll be great in the locker room for us. Anyways, with that, time's yours.
Reference Nick Bolton, and I know you still have to go through OTAs and training camp, but based on what you've seen in his production at Mizzou, is he a kind of guy that you could probably project to immediately contribute, kind of like what you had in mind with Willie Gay last year?
Yeah, so he can play the Mike linebacker position, but he can also play the other positions there. So, yes, he can. We had a bit of an advantage that we have Andy Hill on staff, and Andy coached him, so and knows him personally, which helps. But we felt that he could help us in any of the three positions. And you can't have enough of those guys. We're a little bit short just on bodies and at that spot, at our linebacker spot. So this helps us there.
You mentioned that, you took the best players on your board, and that's always the case, I know, but these two guys also seem to fit two of your biggest needs. Would you say that's pretty accurate, and how delighted were you that the board actually fell that way?
Yeah, well, we knew there was a good group of offensive linemen, and so you figured there would be an offensive lineman there potentially. You're hoping it was one that you liked. And then the linebacker spot was a bit thin, but again, the way it fell, this kid, I thought it was a no-brainer when we got to that spot. I mean, you put on the film and you watch him play, and which I'm sure most of you guys have, that you just see he jumps out at you. So that wasn't too tough of a choice there. But and listen, there's some other good players up there. I'm not saying that, but these were two of the guys that Brett had targeted before we even got into the day here. So he was hoping that they would be there.
Humphrey is now the fifth offensive lineman you guys have added, and counting the two guys who are opting back in, you're basically at a total makeover here at your offensive line. And it was obvious you guys were going to make some changes there, but was this maybe more than you anticipated when the offseason began? And Brad, I'll have one quick follow-up also.
Well, no, listen, we hadn't done a whole lot to that area for a bit, and we've got good players coming back too. So we've got this great competition that'll take place, and Adam, that brings out the best in all of us. So, as a player, you sit there, and I've talked to the guys about this. I mean, Brett's going to go do his job, and he's going to try to keep the competition high, and and let's not run from that. Let's attack it. And what it'll do is, if you handle it right, it brings out the best in you down the road. So embrace the competition and keep on working to make yourself even better, and thus the team better. And that's what Brett's done with the offensive line. He's just added some great competition in there.
And as I mentioned, he is right. There's going to be a whole lot of competition there, and I guess that's a good thing. And the Chiefs may go from, I guess my overarching point about this is it's a complete philosophical change for the Chiefs, and maybe that's a good thing. Before, they had a somewhat cavalier attitude about the offensive line. They got their tackles, and then the rest of it they kind of piecemealed together. And they also piecemealed it together as far as their backups were concerned. Well, now they're almost likely to have a solid, more than solid backup, unless they make some trades or whatever, at all positions. And they certainly are very unlikely to get themselves into the situation they did in the Super Bowl, where they were playing more backups than regulars. And I think they had the feeling all along that was changed by the Super Bowl, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers maybe did them a favor, that Patrick Mahomes could cure all ills. Well, he can cure most ills. In fact, he can cure almost all ills, but we could see that he can't do the impossible, and he was faced with the impossible in the Super Bowl, and it showed. The rest of the draft, the Chiefs went for some needs, but whether these players will, there's a lot of maybe reach for players who, like Mel Kiper felt that the Joshua Kando, the Florida State defensive lineman, was a reach for them at 144 in the fourth round. They did trade up for a very versatile tight end in Noah Gray of Duke, who was a bit of an undersized player, more of an H-back type, slot receiver maybe in the end, special teamer. So a very versatile player, and they did spend some draft capital on that, but they did pick up a sixth-round draft pick, and we'll get to that in a second. They did finally get a wide receiver, but probably one who's not going to have an immediate impact, with round 5, 181st overall, and Cornell Powell from Clemson, who had been a backup most of his career, but then had a big senior year, and he probably at this point is a developmental type player. I think that was an area of need that the Chiefs didn't address. So an area, a really impactful edge rusher or a really impactful wide receiver were the two areas the Chiefs didn't go to, and maybe that's part of my, not frustration, but at least questioning about that pick with Creed Humphrey, round 263 overall. Now, that dude didn't allow a sack in his time at Oklahoma, and he may start. And if he's a decade-long great player for the Chiefs, then I'm an idiot. But they did have other needs there, and they continued to bolster what they had already bolstered in the offseason. And round 6, kind of a fun thing, not just the pick itself, or really not the pick itself. They acquired this pick with that trade with the Jets when they traded up, which, of course, is what Brett Veach does. Did not trade down in this draft, did trade up. He's traded up every single draft. And with that pick, they took offensive lineman Trey Smith for Tennessee. But the pick was more notable in the fact that Chiefs fan Toby Costner did make the pick, and there was video of it, and it wasn't actually on national television, but it was still shown, and he did actually make the pick at the draft. And then he turned to his fiancée, Brianna McAllister, and he proposed with a candy ring, which is a nod to the Deadpool hero played by Ryan Reynolds. And so this was all fun. Of course, she said yes, and in the end, Ryan Reynolds actually tweeted and made an Ant-Man joke about Paul Rudd from Kansas City. So the Chiefs sort of had themselves a feel-good draft. Whether it was a good draft, I don't know. Mel Kiper, who I referenced earlier, gave the Chiefs a B, but he doesn't give anybody less than a C+. So whether the Chiefs were about 15th in his ratings with a B, so he's hardly a harsh grader. But the Chiefs get a guy from Missouri. The Chiefs get a guy from Oklahoma. The Chiefs get a proposal, a wedding proposal. They get a lot of fun things. So I think in the end, most Chiefs fans are happy with it. To me, a little bit of overreach as far as the offensive line is concerned, but I'm sure many people, well, I know many people disagreed with it. What I was getting to at one point, but we'll circle back to here, is the fact that I think it's so great that Chiefs fans are engaged to the point where the entire reaction I got on Twitter to my comment about the fact that the Chiefs maybe were overdoing it on the offensive line was, first of all, shut up. Secondly, don't say anything bad about our squad. And thirdly, we've got to protect our boy Patrick Mahomes, which, of course, all are true. And I'm glad I could get Chiefs fans a little bit riled up with that particular thought. Well, the Chiefs were drafting on Saturday afternoon, and the Royals were playing on Saturday afternoon and hammering the Minnesota Twins. And at the same time, Sporting Kansas City was playing. And maybe that's a good thing, because Sporting Kansas City easily rolled out their worst performance of the year at Real Salt Lake, and they were pretty much handled easily by Real Salt Lake by a count of 3-1. Game didn't start off too bad, as Alan Pulido scored in the 17th minute. Beautiful goal as he drove forward, gave it off on the right to Kyrie Shelton. He whipped in a low cross, and Gianluca Buzio, beautiful dummy to let it go through, and it went right to Pulido, and he basically had a tap in, and his cool finish was his first goal of 2021. Of course, he's coming back from injury. He and Johnny Russell got their first starts of the year after being sort of weaned in a little bit. But 10 minutes before halftime, Sporting Kansas City actually played pretty well for the first 30 minutes or so, but it was pretty much an even game. But RSL bounced back and tied it up before halftime, as Darek Krylak was the person who scored a bouncing header past John Pulskamp. Nothing Pulskamp could do about that, and they tied the game at halftime. Disappointing to get a tying goal, giving up a tying goal just before halftime, but that wasn't the biggest problem. When Sporting came out after halftime, they were completely dominated, and it would be a brace in the second half by Rubio Rubin. A couple of very nice goals for him, as he scored relatively early in the second half, 52 minutes on the clock, and Rubin was at the far post, and then a beautiful one-on-one maneuver that left Sporting Kansas City's defenders making his first start was Cave Rod and Jalen Lindsay. Turned them every which way but loose, and then slotted low inside in near post in the 77th minute. That put the game out of reach, but it was truly deserved. Real Salt Lake completely dominated the second half, and surprisingly enough, maybe it was altitude, maybe it was heat, maybe it was just something that was inexplicable, maybe it was just a bunch of Real Salt Lake, but Peter Vermees basically thought that his team just didn't have enough energy, enough juice.
I think we got tired. I think we were very, very sloppy with the ball. And I think that caused so many problems for us because, I don't think we strung, the interest to see how many times we strung eight passes together. We lost the ball regularly. You do that, you're more than likely going to lose.
You think that was a big factor with the travel, the altitude, or just being early in the season?
I don't know. The temperature was a little bit warmer, but wasn't terrible. I thought it was a good day to play the game. So it wasn't like dog days of summer, that's for sure. But I don't know. When you lose the ball and you don't have the ball, and you're a team that wants to have the ball, and you play like we did today, you're not gonna. You're gonna struggle, and we did, and they were better. We started out well. I thought they were finding it tough to break us down. It's just, again, if you as a game wore on in the first half, easy passes, we were kicking out of bounds. They were going under our foot. We aren't recognizing we had 2 versus 1, sometimes 3 versus 1 on the outside, and we wind up mispassing the ball, and the ball goes out of bounds or goes to the other team. You can't do that. And that absolutely annihilated us in the game, destroyed us.
Kave got his first start, on the road against a tough opponent. Can you just talk about maybe, thought process of giving him the start and then how he did?
Well, Issy was left him out with an injury. Just thought he fit in well for the game. His decision put him in there. I think there's certain things that he did really well in the game. I also think that when young guys come in, they also need help from other guys around them. Just like John Ingold, we just need to be a different team. We need to work hard for the goalkeeper. We need to work hard for the guy who's pressuring the ball, or the guy who's defending a guy. There has to be cover, and there's just a lot of things today that they just weren't there. So I have to go back to the drawing board with the guys and try to get that rectified before we go into this 3-game stretch coming up.
Hey Peter, Pablo Ruiz for Salt Lake He was kind of one of their main playmakers in midfield today. And took both their first 2 goals, he essentially got the assist of the assist. Just was not keeping a close enough eye on him, kind of one of the downfalls for today.
No, I wouldn't say that. No, I wouldn't say that.
There was at least the one bright spot with scoring early with the goal. That was a good combo play from Shelton and Busio and Polito. Good to see him get on the scoreboard and get started.
Yeah, it is. And Allen was actually excellent in the game. I mean, I was saying I'd be incredibly frustrated because I think that him and a few other guys, they wanted the ball, they wanted to play, and they were trying. But they're, again, you play at this level, you have to play. You have to want the ball. Today, for some reason, the mistakes that we made, they really, really hurt us in the game. And so when you don't have it and you lose the ball like we did in the spots that we did, you wind up defending and you start guessing and you start making decisions that you normally don't do. And now all of a sudden, the other team who's motivated, home game, their opener, they capitalize on it. So, credit to them.
I don't very often differ with Peter Vermes about his opinions of what goes on a soccer field or in a soccer game, but I have to disagree with him a little bit as he completely dismissed Sean Goodwin's question there towards the end of that conversation as he talked about the fact that the midfield was kind of bossed by one man and several people for Real Salt Lake, and he said he didn't think that was a particular issue. Well, I did, and I thought that the fact that the midfield was dominated so much by Real Salt Lake certainly was a key factor in that one. Peter Vermes doesn't agree. I'm sure he'll be working out, maybe not that, but some other things during the course of the week in what I'm sure will be a spirited week of practice for Sporting KC after easily their worst outing of the year, and they'll try to bounce back next Sunday when Austin FC, the expansion team, or one of them in MLS, visits Children's Mercy Park, and that will be a 6:30 game next Sunday as the 1-1-1 Sporting Kansas City team returns to action. And they've had one excellent road game against New York Red Bulls, one pretty good home game against Orlando City, and then, of course, a very, very shaky game on Saturday afternoon, and they will try to get over that and get back on track as they are 1-1-1 on the season. We've still got plenty ahead, as I mentioned in the open. There's all kinds of notes and quotes and bullet points, and we'll take a look at the Royals and hear from them as well. So lots still to cover as we've got racing, we've got more soccer, we've got baseball, we've got Kansas football. We got a lot. It's coming up next in Block 2 right here on Monday Musings, Danny Sports Wrap.
More of Danny's Reasonably Irreverent podcast after this.
I'm here with Joe Spiker, owner of Easton Roofing, and boy, we had to negotiate a million things in 2020, but Easton Roofing navigated them all. As 2021 rolls out, what should we expect this coming storm season?
Well, Danny, it'll be the same thing as it is every year. The storms come, and you've got the guys out knocking on doors offering quote-unquote free inspections. Be wary as a homeowner. If somebody's knocking on your door, they probably need the work, and if they need the work that bad, they may be willing to do something untoward to get it. So if somebody knocks on your door, says they want to give you a free inspection, just tell them have a great day and give us a call. We'll come out for free and give you a good, honest opinion as to whether or not you need to do anything at all with your roof.
And what's the best way to get in touch with Easton Roofing?
You can always find us online at eastonroofing.com or give us a call at 913-257-5426.
Easton Roofing. Integrity matters. We're here once again with Dr. Brad Woodall from Advanced Sports and Family Chiropractic and Acupuncture. Springtime, good weather's finally here. People want to stay active, and it's your job to make sure that they can stay active, and be healthy.
Danny, we see a lot of not just weekend warriors, but people that every day are having that want to get back to activity. Whether you're starting with walking, jogging, or maybe that first 5K of the year, we want to help you out. We specialize in taking care of all ages, from kids all the way to grandmas and grandpas, but absolutely specialize in getting you back to full function and keeping you in great shape.
So in short, how do we go about doing that?
The first thing is to schedule a consultation with one of our doctors and therapists so we can see how you move and how you're supposed to move. Based on our assessment, we can put together a short treatment plan and a set of goals to help you both feel better, function better, and most importantly, stay better for this year and many years to come.
Learn more at asfca.com/Danny. That's asfca.com/Danny. Cinematic Visions has been an affordable solution for professional media production in Kansas City since 2003, offering award-winning video production and creation, as well as a wide array of digital and social media management services. From planning, scripting, filming, editing, and post-production, to delivering your product to a watching world, Cinematic Visions will provide professional and affordable services for you and your business with the necessary return on investment to make it all worthwhile. Cinematic Visions' goal is to unlock the power of storytelling through video and a strong online presence for your company. Beyond the numbers, they want to inspire and evoke your clients to feel and act. Let my friends at Cinematic Visions embed your brand where it belongs, in your customers' minds. You can find them online at cinematicvisions.com or with a quick phone call at 816-600-6300. I'm here with David Schmidt from Private Capital. And David, tell us more about your outstanding firm.
Thanks, Danny. Here at Private Capital, we focus on return on asset. In today's world, it is survival of the fittest. We look at things from all angles and try to figure out what works best for you. The changes we will see this next year on assets will be monumental. The key to success is knowledge. Know where you want to go, and we'll be here along the way. To find out more, give us a call at 816-221-7775.
David Schmidt from Private Capital with the best service for you.
If you'd like to join these and other great sponsors and market your business to a growing and engaged audience, contact us at danny@dannyclinkscale.com. Look forward to hearing from you.
Welcome back to Monday Musings, presented by Dillon's Heating and Cooling. And the Kansas City Royals had a rough Sunday, but in the grand scheme of things, it almost seems like it doesn't matter. The Royals were battered by the Twins 13-4. They played a very poor game. Defensive gaffes all over the place. Brad Keller wasn't very good, although many of the runs against him were considered unearned, but he was hit hard. The Royals just didn't do much right. They scored 3 runs in the 4th and 1 in the 5th to kind of make it a game after a 7-run inning had put the Twins in the driver's seat, but the Twins kept pouring it on, and they win the game easily. But still, the Royals have the best record in baseball, despite the fact that they have a runs differential that is -3. But they, in the way that they've done this year, seem to be able to turn even things like losing only their second series of the year into somewhat of a positive, because almost immediately after the game, it was announced that Daniel Lynch would be promoted, and he will start tonight's game against the Cleveland Indians. Another part of the future. Chris Bubich pitched in Sunday's game, although he wasn't particularly good, although we'll hear from Mike Matheny in a couple of minutes, and he felt like he was okay. But Lynch is going to start a game, and this is the next wave of what the Royals hope will be a great core of starting young pitchers, and this is the first one who is actually in the next wave after Brady Singer and others who are going to get a start, and it'll come with the Royals sitting in first place, having played good baseball all year long, generally, and even when they haven't played great baseball, they have managed to make things look maybe a little bit better than they are. I guess that is reflected in the fact that they are playing .615 baseball with a -3 run differential. Normally, you think of that as something that can't sustain itself, and maybe it can't, but the Royals still trying to make that happen, and as we start May, they have provided at least a month of smiles for their baseball fans, and who they are going to get to watch this club in greater numbers as well. As May starts, they're going to have crowds that can be as many as 17,000 as they start this week-long homestand tonight. And as mentioned, it wasn't a good day at the office, and certainly that doesn't make Mike Matheny very happy. But in general, he's feeling good about his club.
Well, that wasn't exactly how we wanted to end a very good road trip. But, Brad just had trouble finding his location. And then when he did make some pitches, we had a couple blips that ended up hurting him. And we know that the way he throws, we're going to need to make plays behind him. So that snowballed and made it worse than what it was. But guys showed some life getting us close, and unfortunately we weren't able to hold it there. But once again, it was a very good road trip for us. We did a lot of things well. Just this one and the first game here too, both of those I feel very indicative of the kind of club we've been all season, and you just got to let these go and now get ready for a good homestand.
For you, did this series, today, but also just this series, feel like one where momentum really just shifted games almost completely?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. There were a couple momentum plays that we needed to make that could have potentially changed how it was going. But that's kind of the name of the game. And you get in these kind of games, you realize you come in today, we feel this is going to be just one of those tough, close games. We're going to have to play really clean baseball and take advantage of mistakes. And they took advantage of the mistakes.
And tomorrow you start 7 games at home against the Indians and the White Sox. What can you tell me about the trip and the oncoming home series?
Yeah, we're looking forward to getting home, looking forward to being in front of our fans. Once again, just it's always good to end a road trip in a way that kind of represents how we played. It's been a long trip, and everybody's excited to get home. And obviously, we continue opportunities inside of the division, and it's going to be a good test for us, especially bouncing back after a couple games that we would say are embarrassing. But we're sandwiched in there. A really good display yesterday of a lot of good things. So it's we're always searching for consistency and always working to figure out ways to get us closer to it.
Did you see anything with Keller after that big inning? It seemed like he kind of settled down a little bit more later on.
Yeah, it's always going to come down to location, with a fastball location, and being able to control the movement of his pitches, not elevating too much to where some things flatten out for him, and just catching a big part of the plate in a ballpark where the ball will go if they get it, and you're inviting those fly balls as you elevate in the zone, and especially when you get into hitters' counts. So he was in a better spot, and there's no doubt that we could have probably pushed a little bit, but right after we answer back and get 4 runs, it's a good opportunity for us to try and help him a little bit by bringing in the bullpen. It was good to see Chris Bubich back out there. I thought he looked good right from the top. But there's going to be some games we're going to run every pitch possible out of Brad, but we had a few guys that could go today and help us out.
Alec? Mike, how nice was it to see Dozier get the big one, but then just both balls today? How nice is that with the homestand coming up?
Yeah, a couple of hard hit balls. And, some guys to continue to do what they're doing. Good day for Santana. Benny hit the ball in the screws all day long. He's in a really good place. And Dozier was the one that we were talking about. They just really haven't got him in a good spot where he's had some good, consistent results as much as anything. So today I think it's a good one for him to build.
And they crank up the homestand with the young left-hander Daniel Lynch on the mound for the Kansas City Royals, and they have a 1.5 lead over the White Sox in an American League Central that so far has not gone according to form, although the Minnesota Twins certainly showed a little bit more form over the weekend, and as I mentioned, taking just the second series from the Kansas City Royals. There are all kinds of other things to go, and we'll do it in bullet point fashion. We could be here all day long, and you probably don't want that. Kansas got themselves a new head football coach. It's Lance Leipold. He was announced as the coach on Friday, and he got to watch his team in the spring game on Saturday. The spring game was dominated by the defense, and I don't know if that's ever really a particularly good sign in the modern football game because offense is where it's at, but he did not participate in any way. The interim coaching staff that has been on board was the staff that ran things, but he still did, with his family, get to watch the game and be introduced over the weekend, and he'll be formally introduced today to the Kansas public and the media, and Lance Leipold becomes the next coach and the next hope for Kansas football, which has been so dreary for a decade now. You talk about appropriate, and it was Kyle Busch who was the winner. In fact, he won 2 of the races over the weekend at Kansas Speedway, the truck race on Saturday night, and then the Bushy McBush main race on Sunday. It was an entertaining race and fairly clean most of the day until the end of the day when there were just a whole pile of cautions, and they ended up with a green-white checkered finish, and Kyle Busch was able to get across the finish line and win his first race of the year. And he also won for the first time at Kansas Speedway in the main race. Bushy McBush is certainly a silly title, and the fans were the ones who voted for it. But Kyle Busch makes it seem like completely appropriate in a good weekend at Kansas Speedway, still not allowing full participation by the fans, but plenty of activity for them and a lively weekend at Kansas Speedway and a sort of ironic victory for Kyle Busch. Kentucky Derby was also held this weekend, and it was won by Medina Spirit, and it was the 147th Kentucky Derby, and it was the 7th win for Bob Baffert. I was watching it at a place where there was no sound, and I saw the race, and then they cut to, I didn't know that Medina Spirit was trained by Bob Baffert, but they cut to the shot of the people celebrating, and there was the shock of white hair for now the all-time greatest trainer in the history of the Kentucky Derby with his 7th win as Medina Spirit in a very exciting race. They call it, the most exciting 2 minutes in sports, and I think really for someone who probably watches 3 to 4 horse races per year, I always do find it very exciting and to watch, and it looked like Medina Spirit was not going to be able to hold on, but was able to keep the lead all the way down the backstretch and win the Kentucky Derby, and Bob Baffert with a record-setting 7th Kentucky Derby win. And something really crazy, troubling, but not as bad as maybe it could have been, went on across the pond in Manchester, England. Manchester United and Liverpool were supposed to play a very big football match at Old Trafford on Sunday, but instead it was postponed, and it was postponed because of fan behavior. The first match in the history of the Premier League to be postponed because of fan behavior. And what happened was, of course, in the wake of the Super League, there have been many protests of owners and ownership, and the Glazers have never been a popular ownership group with Manchester United. They bought the team based on a lot of debt, and Manchester United, which has had a glorious history as a franchise, hasn't been quite as good, certainly under the Glazers. Fans have always been fairly upset with their ownership, and then it was exacerbated even more by the attempt to start up the Super League. And so thousands of fans gathered outside Old Trafford for what was generally a peaceful protest. But a small group in the hundreds was able to actually get in the stadium. They knocked down a gate and went into the stadium. I would say stormed the stadium, but it really wasn't that. I was settling in to watch the Arsenal match and work out, and all of a sudden there's a split screen there, and they're talking about this breach of the stadium, which really was, I'm not going to say it was comical because they're not supposed to be in there, but there was very little security. There were just stewards there. Fans were bouncing up and down on the tarpaulins that were covering the seats, and they were almost having a little holiday coming down onto the pitch and kicking the ball around. There were a few slightly violent things where some cameras were tossed about, but in general it was just more like kind of a joke, to be honest, and certainly you're not supposed to do it, and it's trespassing, but there was really no dangerous activity. But the absolute total lack of security that these twice, actually, they came in, they went out, and then another group of protesters came in. It was sort of astounding that this actually could occur, and I think because there weren't supposed to be any fans in the stadium on this particular day, and it's been COVID time, so the security is probably a little more lax, but still it was kind of jarring to see that the fans could just waltz their way into the stadium a couple of hours before a game was supposed to take place. The game ended up being postponed, and there'll be all kinds of investigations into the lack of security, but it still does show that the empowerment of the fans has been very real over in England in the wake of the Super League and some other things, and for the first time it results in a match being postponed in a setting that was strange, odd, not dangerous, and I can't quite go all the way to comical, but just a little bit strange. Well, there you go. Quite a bit of ground to cover here on Monday Musings. Danny Sports Wrap, always presented by Dillon's Heating and Cooling. I can't imagine that we're going to have too many Mondays that were as crazy busy as that, but we'll find out as we move along in 2021 and return more and more to what we consider maybe normal sports activity. And, of course, we don't just do sports here at the Reasonably Irreverent Podcast, so all through the week, check out some of the things that we do here. We always appreciate you coming aboard, and if you want to try something else to support the whole enterprise, I also have something going on at patreon.com/Danny Clinkscale, so you can check things out over there as well. Always appreciate you listening. We'll talk to you again soon, and have a great week.
We hope you enjoyed the latest Danny Clinkscale Reasonably Irreverent Podcast. Come back soon for something fresh and new. This podcast was made possible by our great sponsors like
Dillon's Heating and Cooling, treating you like family with expert and affordable HVAC services.